Keeneland, every moment matters.
Welcome to another edition of the TDN Writers Room podcast presented by Keeneland. My name is Bill Finley. I'm a correspondent for the TDN and the co-host of the Down the Stretch radio show on Sirius XM. I'd like to wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving.
Yeah, happy Turkey Day, everyone. I'm Randy Moss with NBC Sports and the Buyers Speed Figure team.
Zoe Cadman with First Racing and First TV. Happy Thanksgiving to one and all. It seems magical that Lucy just manages to position herself in camera every single time. I had a question for Randy before we got started. I just wanted to know if he'd called James McDonald and congratulated him on such a brilliant ride on Romantic Warrior just a couple of days ago.
I didn't watch the race. Tell us about it. Tell us about it.
He was absolutely sensational. He sat in the pocket, he tipped out, and Romantic Warrior just went away and won like a good thing. He's just absolutely an amazing horse. To come off a layoff since April, he's had surgery.
Yeah,
post-surgery. He won going away by an easy couple of lengths. And then earlier on in the card, you had the Grade 2 sprint as well, Kai Rising.
Did he win again?
Oh, he won by 3 in a gallop. Like, after taking the Everest in the way he took the Everest, he is the fastest horse in training. He could have absolutely shattered his course record. He went 107.33, and I think the track record is 23, and he finished across the line in a gallop. 2 brilliant horses. I can't believe you didn't watch. You need to call James McDonald.
I can't believe. Well, no, he's obviously one of the best jockeys in the world, right? I mean, he's a legend in Australia, but the ride on Romantic Warrior in the Saudi Cup did not make him look like one of the best jockeys in the world. Put it that way. I'm excited that Romantic Warrior has come back to win. He's got one more race to go now in Hong Kong, but mainly because of the rematch possibilities in the Saudi Cup in February, back with Forever Young again.
Look at Bill. Bill can't wait for the Saudi Cup. Look at him. Look at him.
Oh, yeah. It's
he can't wait for us to stop talking about foreign racing.
All right, everybody. Well, I think, somebody said, why you guys keep talking about Dale Romans week after week after week? You just had him on as a guest in the podcast. But I find this a fascinating story. And I really do think that racing people, want to know the latest details. So if you're getting a little Dale Romans fatigue, well, get over it, because this is a great story. And things have happened since we last talked about him. Number one was that he announced that in his first week of his official campaign, he's raised $750,000. But the thing that most impressed me was, and I was amazed by this, James Carville, who everybody knows, he's a big figure in the Democratic Party. Also, by the way, he's a horse player, which I'm sure is the reason why he was aware of Dale Romans. I think a lot of people in politics didn't really, honestly, wouldn't know who the guy was. But anyways, he came out with the most amazing endorsement of him. And this is from a big deal. I mean, this guy is one of the voices of the Democratic Party. And among the things he says, Kentucky's about to surprise the hell out of the country now that we've got a Democrat who can win. Here's another quote. Now Dale's running his biggest race yet for the U.S. Senate. I haven't been this excited in years. And then he said the following: he's an independent Democrat who's not looking to make headlines. He's looking to shovel up the, excuse my French, bullshit and actually fit what's broken. So, hey, Cadman, have we underestimated him? Does he really have a chance to do this?
I think he does. I mean, you're the naysayer. Like, this is all on you. I think he's got a great shot. I mean, I'm not the biggest political pundit in the world, but why not? Why not? I mean, he's gone out on a limb. He's going to have a big following now. I mean, 750,000, I hate to say it, but doesn't seem like a whole lot of money. You're going to need a little bit more than that, at least. Maybe he could get some Rapoli or some Jon Stewart money in there. He might need some of that, or even some Godolphin money. I mean, the big guys in the sport, because you know that Dale is going to do what's right for horse racing every single step of the way. The biggest players in the sport should be donating, and I'm sure they already have. But maybe just a little bit more to the Dale Romans Fund.
Yeah, Carville is best known, of course, as the mastermind for Bill Clinton's successful campaign for president. He's the one that came up with the "it's the economy, stupid" line that was used to such great effect. And anybody, he is a huge racing fan. I've been on his podcast before talking about nothing but horse racing, big time racing fan. And whether your political alignment is moderate or extremely conservative or liberal or extremely liberal, you got to respect Carville for the fact that he's just such a straight shooter. He will always tell you what he thinks. You may not agree with it or not, but he will tell you where he comes down in no uncertain terms and in a very entertaining way. He doesn't give a crap what people think about what he says or the way he says it. And he carries weight. He definitely carries weight with those in the Democratic Party. So I agree with Bill that having Carville come out to support Dale Romans in his candidacy is a very helpful thing. Now, whether he can overcome the Trump plus 32 factor in Kentucky, political pundits might be a little skeptical, but we'll see.
Yeah, we'll keep an eye on that. So a lot of jockeys in the news, particularly, and I've been following Paco Lopez. I mean, it's very controversial, the suspension that HISA gave to him, but he's back riding now in Louisiana. The reason why he can ride in Louisiana is because of various court rulings. It's not covered by HISA. So they don't have to abide by the HISA suspensions. And no surprise, he got off to a great start. The first 3 days of the meet have been run so far. We're recording this on Monday, and he's got 7 winners already. He had 2 days that he won 3 races. He is in first place in the jockey standings. I know it's early with 7 wins, but Randy, can he actually beat Jose Ortiz for the riding title? No, Jose is still at Churchill, but he'll be coming to Fairgrounds, and he was the king there last year.
Oh yeah, but I think Paco's in with a pretty good shot. I really do. I mean, obviously without Jose there are some mounts that are open to Paco that might not be open to him when Jose moves full time. But he was on some really live horses Thursday, Friday, and Saturday at Fairgrounds. He rode 6 favorites in the 3 days, 4 winners and a second among those 6 favorites. He looked really good, put horses in the right spot. And he was having a career year before all the controversy and before the suspension and before, he was forced to reroute his career to Louisiana, even with the time that he missed. Right now, in races won nationally, Irad Ortiz, who has won the last 8 years, the races won title in America, has 312 wins. Paco, after this weekend at Fairgrounds, has 311. So that's going to be a pretty interesting race to watch also all the way down to the line.
Yeah, he's definitely within a shot. And yes, the big guys aren't there yet. Jose Ortiz, there's a few other guys that will be coming down to the Fairgrounds. And the bigger trainers don't have their full barns there. 4 of his 7 wins have come for trainer Joe Sharp, who has set off. He's leading trainer down there. So he's hooked up with Paco. And then you have to think that a lot of these Louisiana horsemen that are coming in from Louisiana that is not a HISA state for the other jurisdictions, they're going to side with Paco because of his discretions with HISA. I have a feeling that he's going to get a big following from the local Louisiana trainers that are going to use him. And we all know that Paco will ride anything. He will ride absolutely anything and give it his all. So while Jose Ortiz is probably going to be riding the higher echelon of horses there, pretty much at least half of the card, maybe 40% of the card are made up Louisiana-bred races with those horses coming in from Evangeline and places like that. Paco's going to ride the bulk of those. Jose might not ride all of those. So he's in with a very, very good shot indeed.
Yeah, I was wondering, too, if this might change the course of his career ultimately, that, right now he'd normally be at Gulfstream and go to Monmouth. If he's that successful at the Fairgrounds, perhaps he would think of being a permanent rider down on that circuit and riding in Kentucky as well, which would be a lot tougher. He wouldn't dominate, obviously, there like he does at Monmouth every year.
He's never leaving Monmouth.
We'll see. Don't give him a chance and see what he does. All right. So talk about hot jockeys. How about what's going on with Flavien Prat in New York right now? And I mean, these are just ridiculous numbers. Right now at Aqueduct, and remember, he's not riding mainly on the Saturdays because he'll go like he is this weekend to Churchill to ride, but he is going to ride the entire winter at Aqueduct, which was a big surprise, a jockey of his caliber. Right now, he's 31 for 81, 38% winners. Manny Franco was second with 14. He won 5 races on Sunday as we speak, the last day of racing that we've had in New York, including 2 stakes. And remember, on November 2nd, he set a NYRA record winning 7 races. So Randy, what's going on here? That's an easy question to answer. He's a great jockey. Yeah. And admittedly, the NYRA riding colony without the Ortiz brothers and Luis Saez is not really at its height right now. But, he's posting numbers that you just don't, at least in New York, you just don't ever see.
Yeah, I don't think you'd get many arguments if you say that the two, most successful jockeys in America are Irad Ortiz and Flavien Prat. I mean, that's just the way it works. And what's interesting right now is the battle for the Eclipse Award. Okay. I think too many people who have votes for the Eclipse Award will look at the champion jockey race and they'll just look at the earnings list and they'll take whoever comes out first in earnings and not even think twice about it and say, okay, there's your champion jockey, right? And Irad Ortiz has won it, I think, 5 or 6 times already. I think in this case, that might be a mistake. I mean, right now in Money One, it's extremely close. Flavien has 37.5 million. Irad has 37.3 million. But even if Irad overtakes him before the end of the year, if you dig a little deeper, right now as we speak, Flavien has ridden 330 fewer mounts than Irad. He's averaging $32,000 per mount in earnings. Irad's averaging $25,000. Flavien's won 41 graded stakes races. Irad's won 32. So in those metrics, I think it's more significant, really, than just looking at whoever's going to end the year with the most gross earnings. I think Flavien's had the better year.
I should have known Randy would steal my $32,000 per start. Irad $25,000. Why did I even bother with that? He's been staring at his keyboard for the last hour, going down some rabbit hole. It's funny. At the beginning of the year, a lot of people were talking about Jose Ortiz putting his hat in for an Eclipse Award. I'm not quite sure about his graded stat stakes. Randy, are you?
Go ahead and keep talking, and I can tell you.
He was firmly throwing his hat in for an Eclipse Award. And trust me, he's had an excellent year. How do you think he feels, Bill? He moved down to the fairgrounds, had a stellar winter there. He'd already announced he was moving his tack to Kentucky, and he was like the leading rider at Churchill. And here comes brother Irad, just following him in and stealing his thunder. And now he's moved his tack to Kentucky. How do you think he feels about that?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, can't read his mind, but, it's amazing because he is certainly one of the top 5 jockeys in the country, maybe even number 3 behind Irad and Flavien. But he is always in his brother's shadow. He has been throughout most of his career. But I'm not going to shed any tears for him. He's making a lot more money than we are.
How about his agent?
To answer Zoe's question, okay. All right, graded stakes wins so far in 2025. Flavien Prat, 41. Irad, 32. Jose, 25.
Okay.
And tied for 4th are Johnny V and Juan Hernandez, each with 24.
What about grade 1 wins?
Don't know.
Okay.
So Zoe, back to the question that Randy brought up. We still have a month to go, and that could change things, a month and a few days. But if the year were to end today, I would vote for Flavien Prat for the Eclipse Award. How about you?
He's going to win a lot more races the rate he's going at Aqueduct. He's won 38 races since the day after Breeders' Cup. And you talked about that winning 7 of 10. People forget. That was after flying across the country the day after Breeders' Cup. We're talking about the Sunday after Breeders' Cup. So that's a lot of travel. You're coming down off a big high, winning those races Breeders' Cup day. You get to Aqueduct. It may be cold, a little bit dreary. And here he goes. He wins 7 races right off the bat. He's basically going to dominate there, much like he did in Southern California. And he probably should. And good for him.
That rabbit hole, Zoe, that I was going down when
yeah.
you're talking about that I was so focused on. And I don't think IRAD gets enough credit for this. When I was looking at the races won standings this year between IRAD and Paco, 312 to 311, I thought, wow, wonder how IRAD does typically in races won. He's the leading jockey in America in races won in 2024, 23, 22, 21, 20, 19, 18, 17. Unbelievable. 8 times. Only Russell Bays has been America's leading jockey in races won in more years than Irad Ortiz. Russell did it 13 times. And people don't really look at that much anymore. Trainers or jockeys in overall races won. It used to be a lot more common back in the day. That was a lot bigger deal than it is now. But my gosh, Irad rides a lot of horses. He's ridden more horses this year, 1,479 than any other rider in America. And he certainly wins more than his share.
Especially when you consider the circuit he's riding on. And we're not just talking you're winning at a B, C circuit. Russell Bays was great, but there was no competition for Russell Bays. He's riding the best horses at the best tracks in North America. It's truly amazing.
And just one more thing to keep in mind when we talk, Randy, about who will be the leading jockey this year and the number of wins. Paco missed a month and a half, maybe 2 months, because of the HISA suspension before, he made what has turned out to be the very wise decision to move his tack to Louisiana. Yeah.
So, that should be a little asterisk there. He clearly could have had more mounts and more wins were it not for that situation.
All right, so interesting jockey news, and we'll keep following the Pratt versus Irad battle as we end up the year. But right now, we're going to take a break, and we're going to hear from Keeneland. We'll be right back.
The TDN Writers' Room is brought to you by Keeneland. As Keeneland's record-breaking 2025 comes to a close, it's time to look ahead to 2026, and that kicks off right after Christmas in the January sale. The 2-day Keeneland January of Horses of All Age sale is a trusted marketplace where breeders and owners launch the new year with confidence. Strategically timed at the start of the season, the sale provides an ideal platform to showcase broodmares, broodmare prospects, short yearlings, and racehorses to a global audience of buyers. It's a perfect opportunity to set the stage for success in the year ahead. Sale begins on Monday, January the 12th. We'll be right back after this message from Keeneland.
We do this so your granddaughter can work on a farm someday. So the stands will still be packed in 50 years. That's why we come to work every day. Obsess over every single detail. Because the story of racing is written one moment at a time. And the future of our industry deserves nothing less. Keeneland. Every moment matters.
The fastest horse of the week is always brought to you by the Fast Sires at WinStar Farm. This week, the spotlight again is on Life is Good, the fastest of all the fast sons of Into Mischief at Stud. 9 triple-digit Beyer speed figures during Life is Good's racing career, including a 112 Beyer. He won 4 Grade 1 stakes, including the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile. Won his debut as a 2-year-old, so he was precocious as a stallion. Life is Good. In his first 2 books, bred 379 mares. Of those, 104 were either graded stakes winners or producers. 34 of them were Grade 1 winners or producers. You can watch for the first 2-year-olds from Life is Good in 2026. And again, he stands WinStar Farm. Fastest horse of the week ran on Thursday at Aqueduct in a optional $100,000 claiming race. His name, Full Screen. Back at the Saratoga meet, Full Screen was claimed for $100,000 by owner Sandy Goldfarb and partners. Transferred to trainer Brad Cox. He's had 3 starts since then. Thursday was his 3rd. Going 1 1/8 at Aqueduct, he drew off to win by 6 lengths. Big Screen, or Full Screen, had previously run a 99 Beyer speed figure earlier in his career. About a year ago, in fact, but on Thursday, a career high 100 reached the triple digits, and that makes Full Screen our fastest horse of the week.
Welcome in now the Gainesway guest of the weekend. It's retired jockey Trevor McCarthy, who was in the news the other day when HISA announced that he has become their jockey wellness consultant. Trevor has been very open about his struggles as a jockey, and we welcome him to the podcast now. But Trevor, I want to ask you, back in April, what was going on in your life and why did you decide to retire at that time?
So I decided to retire because I kind of had some really God experiences, and I'm not very religious, but was raised Catholic. And that week up to retirement was I had gone to Colonial Downs, and Chaplain Jay, he always comes in the jockey room and does a prayer time. And after prayer, he came up to me and said, "Hey, I just want you to know that God has reached out to me about you, and he wants you to know that I'm here and that God is here for you, and that, he feels that you're struggling." And that was a pretty hard pill to swallow. As just a few nights before that, I had been in a hotel at Colonial, and I had prayed to God that, to show me some signs of whether I should continue to keep riding or not. So that was one. And then I went home to Saratoga for a couple of days, and I was in the hospital. I had a panic attack. Got out of the hospital at 12 o'clock at night and jumped on a plane at 5:30 in the morning to go back down to Colonial. And I rode for a couple of days and then had a therapy session before that evening at Colonial. And I was speaking to a gentleman named Michael Bingaman, who I talked to him about 10 months before that. During the Zoom meeting, he had called me during that Zoom meeting, and we had talked 10 months before that and never heard from him again. And he had reached out that day and said, "Hey, I saw your name in my contact list, and I felt that I should reach out to you. I'm thinking of you. I hope everything's okay." And once he was like kind of the third strike. And I was just kind of like, you know what, this is it. And I had said to my therapist, I just got this text. And she said, "You shouldn't make any split decisions. You shouldn't just say that you're going to retire." And I said, "You know what, I've been saying it for too long. It's time. And this is what I'm going to do." And I never felt so right about a decision in my entire life. And I drove back home. It usually takes me 8 hours to get back to Saratoga. It took me 10. And it took me down all these back country roads, like thinking roads. And it was really cool. Michael Bingaman stayed on the phone with me for 2.5 hours and talked to me the whole way home, almost the whole, not the whole way, but part of the way home, and just made sure I was okay. And it was just really, kind of something that I was just like, okay, that's it. It's enough. And I don't want to go back. I just want to keep moving forward.
So now you are a jockey wellness consultant. So tell us in your view, what exactly does a jockey wellness consultant do?
So what I've been working on is building resources for jockeys to have that improves wellness for them. So far we have built we have teamed up with OnRise program through the therapy and psychiatrist program that we have with them. And we have tied in a nutritionist just recently, a couple weeks ago, to help with the jockeys as well. And come first of the year, starting January 1st, we're going to have a career counselor as well for jockeys. And what we're kind of working on, Jeff Johnson and I, who also works at HISA with Safety Check, we're working on a second career program for jockeys, where if any jockeys feel kind of stuck in any way, that they're going to be able to do, have another career outside of racing or even in the industry, whatever they might choose. But we want to kind of come up with a bunch of options for jockeys to, have connections and say, hey, look, we know, let's just say Mike Rapoli, for instance. Mike Rapoli, he's in the beverage industry. And, Michael has been kind enough to take on jockeys and help them set them up for a second career, maybe working for his company or maybe other companies that he has and knows connections or has connections with.
Trevor, I just want to take you back to some of your answers from the first question that we had with you, because it seems like you're in a happy place. When you started talking about, I made the decision right away that day, you were smiling. And it just seemed that this was a thing that, like you said, you'd been thinking about for the last year. Talk to me about that moment, and then we're going to talk about the elephant in the room after that a lot of people, after hearing you, will be like, well, you shouldn't be a jockey anyway. He's too tall. Obviously, your height, your weight, all the tolls that go into be a jockey, that's one. But obviously, there's a few other mental issues that come to play as well.
Yeah, for me, like I tell people, it was really a perfect storm because, I was struggling at the time. I was dealing with a low in my career, and, the ups and downs were always a struggle of mine. Weight was another struggle. So dealing with the weight, being 5'9" and staying at 115 pounds was always a struggle day in and day out. And the other struggle was injuries. I've had some pretty bad injuries, and, one of them didn't heal right, and I had to go back and get a second surgery on, and I rode like that for 12 years. So just the wear and tear on the body as well of just, riding day in and day out, and burnout, and then I wasn't able to, really, when I went home, I wasn't able to turn it off because I never could turn it off. I was constantly working. I was constantly thinking about racing, constantly thinking about my weight. So it was very hard to kind of turn off and get away from it when I needed to. So yeah, for me, it was just kind of that perfect cycle of constant struggles that just made it to where it was either I was going to get myself healthy and be in a better environment, or keep being miserable every day and putting my health at very high risk.
Do you feel if you'd have been 5 foot tall, do you feel you would have had some of the same struggles if you didn't have to struggle with your weight? I mean, that's one struggle, but then the mental issues of losing 90% of the time are another one. I mean, I'm just trying to play devil's advocate here for people that could be 5 foot tall and struggling for different issues.
Yeah, again, for me, it was that there was so many things that added up. Maybe if I was 5 foot tall, it might have been a little bit easier. Because now with the injuries that I had and the wear and tear on my body and the lack of nutrition that I was getting my body was never recovered. I was never recovering. And that was something that I learned later on in the last year or two, was I need to learn how to recover. And I was and still am a big cold water plunge guy. I have one at my house, and I would sometimes do cold water plunge 3 times a day because I was in so much pain. I would do it first thing in the morning. I would do it before I rode, and then I would come home, I would eat dinner, and I would do it before I went to bed, because I was just in that much pain. And when I would really put my body in that shock, and it would, the cold was always better for me because it would take away the pain. It would numb the pain. So that was the biggest one, but not being able to give it that extra water, and my muscles being so tight all the time, or the lack of nutrition of just healthy food that can really cure the way your body feels. And I believe now that the way your really mind feels, I mean, it takes 1,200 calories for your brain to function correctly. And there's no way jockeys are putting in 1,200 calories a day.
Trevor, in a recent article I did with you, you talked about your future, and you said you're going into the real estate business. Are you still doing that, or is the HISA job a full-time job? And I want a follow-up question with that. And I echo what Zoe said. I can just tell from this podcast that you're in a much better place now. You have a smile on your face and everything. How are you doing now? And tell me again about, your future and the real estate business.
So it's really cool because there's 2 things that I'm very passionate about in life now, and that's real estate and jockey wellness. So it's really cool that I get to do both of them and be a dad at the same time. And just really, it's the best of both worlds, really. It's great. I can do part-time with my stuff with HISA. So usually I kind of wake up early in the morning, before my kid wakes up, and I work on my jockey wellness stuff. And then I take care of her, and then I kind of tag her along through my real estate stuff. And then same thing kind of at nighttime, I get her laid down, go to bed. And then I'm able to have a couple more hours on the computer to work on my HISA stuff with the Jockey Wellness. So it's nice that it kind of all fits in that way. And with the real estate too, I can be as hands-on as I want to be. I'm not doing any of the labor, which is kind of nice, and it gives me a little bit more free time and flexibility. And I'm not that skilled to begin with, but it's just cool that I'm able to kind of juggle all those and do everything at once, and still really, live a happy and healthy life.
When you said that you were two things that you were now most enthusiastic about, I would have bet a lot of money that one of those two things would have been eating.
Yeah. I do enjoy my meals now. And this summer I tried to put on weight, and I was eating 3 meals a day, and it was so hard. It was just like, I've been dreaming of these days for so long, and now it's a new struggle that I thought I'd never have.
What do you weigh now?
So I had to have a second surgery done on my femur, and I had to get all my rod and screws taken out. Before that, I was up to 34, and now I'm back down to like 30. So then come first of the year, I can start working out again. So I'll start to try and put some weight back on. But yeah, it's been really nice. It's been good to put good weight on, and that's always what I've dreamed about. I've always talked trash in the jocks room and said, "Oh, I can't wait to be the size of a sumo wrestler when I'm done riding," But in reality, I always just wanted myself to be healthy. I always wanted to be at a healthy weight. I always wanted to look good. And for so long, I was just skin and bones. And it's just, I would sit there in the sauna every day and lose weight and, be surrounded by guys like Luis Saez and Irad Ortiz, who are 5 foot tall. And they're these little bulls, and they're got 6 packs and arms and legs like tree trunks. And, I had to compete with them every day, and it was like, man, I want to be like them. I want to look that good one day.
That's awesome. How is being Mr. Mom? I know you're on your way down to Florida right now. I noticed that Katie's riding. She's got a couple of mounts down there. Is that what you do as part of your job in the daytime? You're Mr. Mom?
Absolutely. So, I have her most of the days. Katie's racing Thursday through Sunday, and then now it's going to be Wednesday through Sunday. So I have her most of the time, and it's great. I love it. We have so much fun together. I'm able to, get back some lost time that I wasn't able to spend with her when she was a newborn. So it's just been, and it's a great age right now. She's going to be 4 just before Christmas, and we're just having a blast.
And Trevor, there was very tragic stories in horse racing over the recent years. 2 young riders committed suicide, Alex Cancheri and Avery Wisman. I don't know if you rode much against them, but if you knew them, tell me if you did. And how did that affect you? Did that shake you up?
Absolutely. I rode with those guys on a regular basis. Alex, who is from Minnesota and from Canterbury, came out to Delaware and rode for a summer, and we would go to dinner all the time and hang out, and we became good friends. And he had went back home, and that was a very unfortunate circumstance. And Avery as well. He started his apprenticeship in Maryland when I was there, and he rode there for a couple years, and I think came down to Colonial with me one summer too. And was kind of just young, a kid I always tried to help and teach, and another kid who was tall and struggled with weight, and tried to help him out that way as well. And yeah, it was very eye-opening. And unfortunately, once Avery had taken his life, I told my wife, Katie, I said, this is just devastating. And I said, and I think there's going to be one more soon. And she goes, you can't say that. And I said, I understand it's not the right thing to say, but there's so many more guys out there who are dealing with pain that nobody realizes. And sure enough, in a short time, I think they were maybe a month or 2 apart, Alex had taken his life. So at the time, I didn't really care at the time, because I was already set in my ways of, not being happy with the way my career was going, and really not passionate about riding anymore, and was going through the ups and downs and the struggles. So I at the time, I just was super open about it because I think I just didn't really care anymore, and I thought it was more important that my friends had passed away and that people need to hear what the true struggles are about jockeys. So it was like I did one podcast or one interview, an article with somebody, and it blew up, right? It was like I was the only guy that would ever speak about it. And all of a sudden it's just like every podcast, every article, or whatever it may be. I mean, I had so many people reaching out, and all of a sudden I just found myself being the advocate. Now all of a sudden I'm speaking on symposiums, I'm speaking at panels, and it's like, wow. And then I look behind me and there's no other guys really speaking up, and I'm just like, wow, it was kind of frustrating at the time. And I was just like, man, I felt like, our brotherhood was kind of split at the moment. And, I had guys that would come up to me and kind of pat me on the back, but wouldn't say much, and I had more of the wives that would come to me and say, hey, you're doing the right thing. Don't think my husband's not struggling. He might not show it, but don't think he's not, and so I got more of a rapport from the riders' wives, but not so much the riders itself, because again, we had this, really thing in the jocks room is we have to be tough. We have to be strong. We can't tell anybody our emotions and our feelings because that's a sign of weakness, so it's just, it's been a great journey for me. I just feel like I've been able to give back so much. And that's why I'm just so happy now to be working with HISA and the Jockeys Guild too, to where, we can get a lot of stuff done and really make racing and make, a jockey's life way more healthier than it used to be.
And the reason why so many of your peers didn't come forward, you think, is because they felt it would be bad for their career to come forward?
Yeah, I think career had a lot to do with it. And, I think there at the time when I came out with it, a lot of rumors were going around that, Trevor's not mentally stable and maybe, we shouldn't be riding him and stuff like that. I had some owners reach out to me that, their trainers were concerned about how I was doing. So maybe it took a little bit of effect on my business, but at the time I didn't really care. I was kind of over it. I had lost the passion for it. And again, I just felt that it was important for me to put my story out there because I had two friends that passed. So, but I understand why guys didn't show that weakness and they were afraid to come out, but it's nice to see now that more and more people are talking about it and feel more at ease, and are very open about it and are willing to really talk to me about it, especially so I can make things better, for them.
Can I touch quickly on weights? I know a lot of people have gone backwards and forwards on weight. Obviously, you at 5'9", if you were given an extra couple of pounds, it might have meant the world to you. But just say in a hypothetical world, they say the lowest weight is 130. Do you not feel that guys that are 5'10", 5'11" will be trying to ride then? No matter what the weight, you're always going to have bigger people trying to do those weights. What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, so my thought on the weight is it definitely should be increased. I think, we have proven that in some of the biggest races with some of the best horses, they're able to carry 126 pounds. Let's just say at the Breeders' Cup or the Kentucky Derby, some of the biggest races in the world, they're carrying high weight. And there hasn't been any tragedies due to weight, in England, obviously, but that they're carrying much heavier weight. And, their breakdown rate over there is very slim. So, I don't really see a struggle with why we're, not really wanting to raise the weight. I think it's been a big talk over the last few weeks. And, there's been talks about increasing it to 120, but now when these guys come over, William Buick, O'Shea Murphy, and they come to ride in America, one, some of them can't come because they can't make the weight. And two, if they can make the weight, they're putting themselves at super high unhealthy risk to come here to ride America, to ride the horses that they're riding, to make the weight over here. So it really puts everybody at a dangerous dangerous situation. And even, it can be a super dangerous situation leading up to the races. And there's a lot of guys that go out there very dehydrated or haven't eaten anything in a couple of days. And that's just not healthy. And that doesn't make safe racing. So.
All right. Trevor McCarthy, thank you so much for being our guest this week as the Gainesway Guest of the Week. And we're all so glad that your life has turned a corner, and we're proud of you for speaking out and the good work you're doing for your peers in your former profession. So best of luck to you down the road, and happy Thanksgiving, my friend.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate you having me.
Cheers, Trevor.
Cheers.
Trevor McCarthy, our guest of the week, brought to you as always by Gainesway, the home of a new stallion in 2026, and that would be Locked. Locked checks a lot of boxes, as they like to say in the sport. First of all, he's the son of gun runner. He's a multiple Grade 1 winner. He began his career at Saratoga. Career debut ran a 96 Beyer speed figure, the fastest 2-year-old maiden winner at Saratoga in 10 years. He won graded stakes races at 2, 3, and 4. The Breeders' Futurity at 2, Grade 1, Cigar Mile at 3, Grade 2, and then the Santa Anita Handicap. He romped earlier this year, and of course, that's a Grade 1. So Locked retires with earnings of over $1.9 million. Winner placed in 10 of 11 starts, and he stands at Gainesway Farm for an initial fee of $35,000. Gainesway, power, passion, performance.
Million two, right there, 1,200,000.
Baeza gets his moment in the sun in the Pennsylvania Derby.
Chancer Mick Patrick wins the Champagne impressively.
Spectacular display from Scottish Lassie, who's in front by 15 lengths.
So in the news this week was an announcement that there was a dispute between NYRA and the Horsemen's Group. NYRA wanted to cut down 10 days from the 2026 schedule. The Horsemen, no doubt, no surprise, objected to this. I would come out and be adamantly in favor of what NYRA is trying to do here, because we all know there's too much racing. The fields are too short, and we need to have less racing. And they're only talking about cutting 10 days. They even said they will go back to 200. Well, right now they're advocating for 190 days in 2026, promising to go back to 200 in 2027 when Belmont reopens. I do understand the Horsemen's perspective. I mean, they like to have a lot of racing. I think it was up to them. They would race 300 days a year, but that's just not practical. Zoe, what do you think about this?
I think it's the local horsemen more that are having a beef with this. I read somewhere that, they were saying the Kentucky horsemen come in for the boutique meets, which they do. They come in for Saratoga, they go into Del Mar, and then they leave, and they're not around for the bread and butter. The bread and butter time of year is this time of year where the local trainers make their bread and butter, and they'll win some races and don't have to compete against the likes of the Kentucky guys, the people that ship in for the big stakes. So yeah, I get that from a point of view. So, I'm 50-50 on this. There probably is too much racing and they can't fill the races. I mean, you shouldn't have that many days if you can't fill the races.
You're 50-50. I'm 99.5 to 0.5%. Look, the HPPA has done a lot of wonderful things in the sport, for horsemen, for people on the backside. In situations like this, let the racetracks run the racetracks. Let the racetracks decide how many days they should run, what's better for their business. It's not like the horsemen are going to get less money. I mean, they're still going to get paid the same amount of purse money. It's just going to be concentrated into fewer racing days. Stay out of the business of running the racetrack and focus on training the horses, owning the horses, what's going on the backside, and things like that. That's my 2 cents. Good opinion. But see, if I was the racing czar, they would hate me because I wouldn't even have winter racing in New York. Not at all. Close it down in November. No racing in New York in December, January, February, and bring it back in March at Aqueduct, like it used to be in the old days.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So the other night I had dinner with a very nice fellow, Jay Bricione, who is the head of the syndicate that owns my friend Bookham Dano. And he was generally worried that he could lose the Eclipse Award race to Ben Tornado, who, of course, has, strong credentials, having won the Breeders' Cup Sprint. No surprise where I'm landing on this. I would have a hard time voting in any case for a horse that only ran twice this year, which is the case with Ben Tornado. And what Bookham Dano did at Saratoga, winning those 3 races, I think is a remarkable accomplishment. Randy, where are you going on this? Who's going to get your vote?
Well, right now I'm calling up the past performances for Bookham Dano as we speak. And Bookham Dano in calendar year 2025, we know how good he was. He ran 5 times as opposed to twice for Ben Tornado. He won the Forego, grade 1. He won the Alfred G. Vanderbilt, grade 2. He won the True North, grade 3. And then he won another race at Colonial Downs earlier in the year that was just like a, let's get started race. And he was also beaten just a neck in the Churchill Downs Stakes, which was probably one of the deepest sprint races of the calendar year. He also ran 111 Beyer Speed Figure in the Alfred G. Vanderbilt. Ben Tornado was awesome in the Breeders' Cup. I would give a little edge to the overall body of work, I think, and give the slight edge to Bookham Dano, but it would be only a slight edge because the Breeders' Cup obviously is, the focal point of the second half of the year.
Ditto. Exactly what he said. I would probably have to go for Bookham Dano. Ben Tornado had every opportunity. Yes, he would have been running off the layoff to run against Bookham Dano at Saratoga and opted to go to Churchill Downs. So you can't really blame them for doing that. Ben Tornado was pretty damn awesome winning the Breeders' Cup Sprint. But Bookham Dano winning 3 races at Saratoga, 3 for 3 at Saratoga. We know how hard it is to win any kind of race at Saratoga. So my vote would be for Bookham Dano.
And one more thing to piggyback on what Bill said last week when we were talking about Bookham Dano, it's not going to help Bookham Dano's Eclipse Award chances. The comments that were made as justification for not running Bookham Dano in the Breeders' Cup. They made it sound as if they had various beefs and things like that, as opposed to, the horse is just not physically 100%, so we're not going to send him. That is not going to help their chances because people are going to think that they ducked the Breeders' Cup unnecessarily, and that's not good.
Not now, they won't. Bill had his say last week. You obviously got dinner paid for, right?
Yeah, he sprung for dinner. Yeah, Randy, I want to add to what you said there. I totally agree. They didn't do a good job handling that situation, but in particular, there was an article that came out, I believe, in. Actually, I don't remember where it was, but the trainer, Derek Ryan, said the reason we're not running in the Breeders' Cup is because we can't have Paco Lopez. A, that's not true, and B, it's preposterous. You don't think they could have got a top 2 or 3 jockey to ride who would probably been favored in the Breeders' Cup. And I think that, again, those kind of statements just, I think it really will. It's going to come back to bite him. I don't think enough to cost him the Eclipse Award. I do think he will win. But that was not handled well. Now, we just got finished with our interview with Trevor McCarthy. And Randy, I know you wanted to talk a little bit more about what he had to say about the idea of increasing weights for jockeys.
Just quickly, his opinion about, increasing the overall scale of weight in the United States. I think that would be a terrible mistake to do that. You would make the situation, if you're trying to help jockeys that are reducing and are really, seriously compromising their health in order to make the weight to ride the races. If that's your ultimate goal, increasing the scale of weights in the United States will make things worse and not better. It'll make things better for the jockeys currently riding. But one stat for you, just to illustrate what the severity of that problem will be, the U.S. Census Bureau keeps track of things like this. I'm just going to focus on males age 20 to 29. Okay. There are 2 million roughly that are 140 pounds or less. 150 pounds or less, there are 4 million. So do the math. There are twice as many young men in the United States right now that weigh 150 than there are that weigh 140. You increase the scale of weights, you're basically going to double the number of people who then might feel like riding is within their reach if they just starve themselves and they can maybe, share in some of that lucrative purse money. It would be a big mistake. That's the reason why, I think.
All right, we're going to take another break, and we're going to hear from the PHBA and the KTOB. And when we come back, we'll take a look at some of the major stakes races that are to be run this weekend. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
The TDN Writers Room, sponsored by the Pennsylvania Horse Breeders Association, the PHBA. The 2026 Pennsylvania Stallion and Boarding Farm Directory is now online at pabred.com, so check it out. Just click the link on the homepage, and you can view the Pennsylvania registered stallions for 2026. So it works like this. If you breed to a Pennsylvania registered stallion, then you register the foal, you'll be eligible for 40% in breeders awards and up to 40% in owner bonuses. Do the math. If you win a $50,000 maiden special weight at Parks, the winners share $58,800, which is like winning a $100,000 race at many racetracks. So don't miss out on becoming part of that lucrative Pennsylvania program. For more information, go again to pabred.com or call Brian Sanfratello, 610-444-1050.
The Pennsylvania breeding program is the best program in the country. The Stallion Awards, the owner bonuses, also the restricted races and the stakes races for Pennsylvania breds. This year, 8 breeders are on track to earn over $200,000 in breeders awards, and 2 could hit the $1 million mark. We have the best program in the country. Take advantage of the fantastic program that we have.
Learn more at pabred.com.
With some of the fullest fields in the country and quality racing year-round, there's never been a better time to reap the rewards of breeding and racing in Kentucky. Purse money in Kentucky is at an all-time high, as is average purse per race, outpacing California, Florida, and New York. Kentucky breds. Breed them, raise them, race them. We all win.
The TDN Writers Room also brought to you by Kentucky Breds, the Kentucky Thoroughbred Breeders Incentive Fund, KBIF for short. Over the past 20 years since its inception, back in 2005, has provided more of $250 million to breeders of Kentucky breds winning eligible races worldwide. Kentucky, of course, remains one of the leading racing jurisdictions in the country. Average purse per race, you ready for this? $112,648. Average field size is excellent too. Nearly 9 per race, 8.9 to be specific. So make sure your horse is KTDF, Kentucky Thoroughbred Development Fund, and KBIF eligible to secure your share of those lucrative awards worldwide before the rates increase on Jan 1. Clearly, it pays to race and breed in the bluegrass. Kentucky breds, breed them, raise them, race them. We all win.
This is the last really big weekend of racing coming up on the 2025 schedule. NYRA will have some big races with the Remsen and the Cigar Mile still left on the calendar, but these are kind of the quiet days of the season, no doubt. But nonetheless, a lot to get excited about this week, particularly at Churchill Downs, which has some really good races carded for their weekend, starting with the Falls City Stakes, which is on Thanksgiving Day. I thought this was a very good field, considering this just a Grade 3 race. The 7-2 second choice Raging C, I don't like her one bit. For whatever reason, she hasn't been nearly as good this year as she was last year when she ran in the second in the Breeders' Cup Distaff. My pick will be Regaled for Whit Beckman, who ran third, beaten 6 lengths in the Breeders' Cup Distaff. Race is a lot better than it looks on paper. Keep in mind that that was a inside rail speed favoring track. And look at the comment on this 5-wide sweeping move. Zoe, did you take a look at this race?
Yeah, Regaled is most definitely the horse to beat in here. That was actually my long shot in the Breeders' Cup Distaff. So I really like Regaled in here. And I'm going to tell you not to sleep on the horse that draws the rail. That's Chilled for Vicky Oliver. Coming in with a pretty good resume. Obviously, he's going to be stepping back up in class. She's been beaten by some of these already, but I like the way she's progressing.
The one disadvantage to Regaled is that she got a pretty quick pace in front of her in the Breeders' Cup Distaff, and it's not going to be nearly as contentious a pace in front of her here. I mean, I think there'll be more than the Locust Grove at Churchill in September. The 1, 2, 3 finishers from that race are all coming back. Royal Spa, Alpine Princess, and Regaled was third in there, just as an example of what a slower pace, how that can impact her chances. So I'll take Alpine Princess. I thought that she had a better trip than Royal Spa had a better trip than Alpine Princess. The slow pace, 3 wide on the second turn. So I'll take the Brad Cox trainee there at 4-1 on the morning line.
Couple really good races at Churchill on Friday, starting off with the Mrs. Rivera Grade 2. The morning line maker has Lush Lips at 7-5, Classic Q at 3-1. I'll eat some chalk here with Lush Lips. First of all, it's very interesting that she was the top seller at the Keeneland November sale for $3.7 million as just a 3-year-old filly. But, she won the most important 3-year-old filly grass race of the year, winning the Queen Elizabeth at Keeneland last out with Tyler Gaffalione aboard. And she beat a really nice horse in Laurelin. Classic Q is interesting for Mark Cassie, has really changed for 3 straight races, went to the front all of a sudden, totally changed her running style. She came from almost last to finish second in the Valley View. It's kind of weird that a horse's style would change that much. But I think Lush Lips is the one. I'll take the low price.
Yeah, I mean, she had a beautiful trip in the Queen Elizabeth at Keeneland, breaking from post 1, but she gets post 1 again. And she was visually, I thought, Zoe, very impressive in her win.
Who was she ever? And how do you think Brendan feels? $3.7 million and she's being returned to your barn. Do you feel she's the first horse he checks every morning? Like, you'd think that she would be in the first stall right by his office and like that would be the first one he goes to. But she's stabled at Turfway. Now, his main string, I hate to assume anything, but I'm going to say is at Churchill Downs. He's got horses at Turfway. She obviously does much better over the Turfway track, training each and every day because she is predominantly a turf horse. So she's stabled at Turfway. Brendan, for the most part, is stabled at Churchill. How many times a week do you think he goes over and just says, good girl, check the legs? And that's a lot of money to be in your barn.
All right, so the next race coming up of among the major stakes races is the Clark Stakes at Churchill. This is always a really good race. I think, again, the field came up as usual pretty strong. That's put up $600,000 for this. Chunk of Gold, he was one of the he's the blue collar hero of this year's racing, is 10-1 in the morning line. But if I don't have a wager on this race, I'll be rooting for him because he's a really, really cool story. Hit Show, the Dubai World Cup winner, is listed at 3-1 for Brad Cox. But I'm a Magnitude fan. He showed so much potential early in the year. I mean, albeit in the Iowa Derby was not exactly, the Travers, but he won by 9, got 104 Beyer, 108 before that in the Risen Star. Then he had to be put on the shelf and didn't run well at all in the Travers, but came back with a nice effort in the Pennsylvania Derby to finish second. And please note that there's a major jockey change here from Ben Curtis to Jose Ortiz. No knock on Ben Curtis. He's a terrific rider, but I think Jose Ortiz is an improvement in that category. Randy Moss.
Oh, it's a great race. Love this race. I mean, the 1, 2, 3 finishers in the Fayette all come back. Hit Show, Rattle and Roll, and Gosger. I thought Gosger was the best horse in the Fayette. He was 4 wide on the first turn, 3 wide on the second turn, and Brendan Walsh, there's that name again, puts blinkers on Gosger for the very first time here, trying to get him just a little closer to the pace. He wants him right in the mix. But I agree with you, Bill. If the odds are correct, if the morning line odds turn out to be pretty accurate, Magnitude is 9-2. If he goes off at 9-2 in here, given his second place finish when he didn't get the kind of trip that he likes in the Pennsylvania Derby, I think it's between him and Gosger. I like those two.
And he really showed a new dimension in the Pennsylvania Derby. I mean, obviously you're going from Ben Curtis to Jose Ortiz. I get it, but Ben's really done nothing wrong on this horse in all the times he's ridden him. And Jose's already ridden him twice. Let's just not forget. He's been beaten on him twice already. So it's not like you're handing him the keys to the car of a car he's never driven before. I do like the fact that he sat off the pace and closed nicely to Baeza last time. Yes, he was beaten a fair way by Baeza, but did show a new dimension. So I like magnitude and I like his draw on the outside.
Saturday at Churchill is that card they have for all 2-year-olds, which is always very exciting. The Kentucky Jockey Club kicks it off for males. And Randy, I want to start with you again here because of you're the buyer expert. What a fascinating story Further Ado is. And I talked about him last week on the podcast as a horse to watch on the Triple Crown Trail, but shows very little in 2 sprint races at Saratoga and then just explodes first time around 2 turns to run a 98 buyer, which is tied for the second best buyer this year among all 2-year-olds, to win by 20 lengths. Tell us about that number, and is this horse for real?
Well, I'll say this. The number was at least 98. It could have actually, you can make a case, it could have actually been a few points higher than that. It could have crept into the triple-digit category. Now, he did get a really nice trip. He just sat right outside a pace setter in reasonable fractions at Keeneland, but he just rocketed away from the field. He's coming from a maiden race into a graded stakes race, obviously. But you can say that also about some of the other leading contenders in here. Baffert is sending in a maiden by the name of Cherokee Nation, who went head-and-head down the stretch in a pretty eye-catching maiden race at Santa Anita, fighting with a horse named Mr. AP, and lost in a photo in a gallant effort. Mr. AP, of course, came back and finished second in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile, so that flattered Cherokee Nation. And then a horse called Dr. Kapoor, who Ken Ramsey named after the surgeon that performed his kidney transplant. Dr. Kapoor has had 2 lifetime starts, good numbers both times. Not 98 numbers, but good numbers. And Saffie Joseph trains Dr. Kapoor, and he's going to be one of the leading contenders too.
Really very, very good race. What was the name of the Not This Time colt that won by, 17 lengths at Saratoga?
Yeah, it was Tom Amos.
Tom Amos's horse. Yeah, but I don't remember the name.
I can't remember, but he kind of reminds me of him. And then everyone hyped him so much, and then you couldn't find him with a search warrant the next time. I mean, it's hard not to like Further Ado, but he's not the only horse in here. Randy just rattled off some really, really nice horses that will run him to, whatever they can run him to. I don't know if he can come back and win by that. Obviously, that would be incredible if he could. But there's some nice horses in here. It's not a 1-horse race.
So the 2-year-old filly equivalent of the Kentucky Jockey Club is the Goldenrod. And this one looks easy. Explorer, having coming off a second place finish in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile filly, trained by Bob Baffert, ridden by Flavian Pratt, will be a huge favorite. I think this race is pretty much over when, as they say, when they drew up the overnight, Zoe.
Yeah, she's definitely the horse to beat. She comes back with the bullet work at Santa Anita, 1:11.4. She's held her weight. Bob toys with the blinkers. He likes to put them on for their first start, then he likes to take them off. And obviously he wants her to know he means business this time, so they're back on. Explorer, a.k.a. Blame Kate, as I like to call her. She is most definitely the horse to beat in here. Don't sleep on the Grumpy Rabbit. Already had a start at Churchill Downs. She draws right outside of her with B.J. Hernandez to ride for Kenny McPeak.
Now, okay, I agree. Explorer on paper is definitely the horse to beat, and it'll probably be odds on. But she does have the 12 hole. And Churchill Downs at 1 1/16 has an even shorter run to the first turn than most other racetracks, 1 mile tracks running 1 1/16, because the finish line's so far down the stretch at Churchill. So that's a big disadvantage for Explorer. And if you're wanting to take a chance against her because of that, let me give you the name of a horse that might go off 8 or 10-1. Her name is Bella Ballerina. She's owned by Godolphin, trained by Brendan Walsh, and she happens to be a half-sister to Pretty Mischievous, who won the Kentucky Oaks. She's a daughter of street sense. She should get better around 2 turns, and she was visually very impressive despite a 4-wide trip when she broke her maiden in her career debut at Keeneland. And she drew off to win by 4 lengths. So at a decent price, don't leave her out of your place. You
think she'll be 10-1?
Probably not. I think she'll be a shorter price than that. I'm expecting probably 5-1 or 6-1. She might even wind up being the second choice. But there's also a New York bred in here trained by Mike Maker by the name of Let Me Count the Ways. I mean, you go back and look at her New York bred win in the Maida Mist in October at Aqueduct. You cannot win a race more easily than she won that. She won it by 6, and I'll bet you 4 or 5 different times in the last 3/16 of a mile, Joel Rosario looked back between his legs for competition and just eased her up. She's a definite wire-to-wire threat in here. So I think it's going to be between her and Bella Ballerina as far as who's going to be the second choice.
Interesting. So also a big weekend of racing at Del Mar as they end their Bing Crosby meet, and then they'll move on to Los Alamitos for a little while until Santa Anita reopens on December 26th. They've got the Hollywood Gold Cup on Saturday, a terrific card with the Hollywood Derby, the Seabiscuit, and the Jimmy Durante. Why don't we focus in on the Hollywood Derby? Because I believe, it's the only Grade 1 race with all these big races. It's the only Grade 1 race of the weekend. Chad Brown, of course, is a major factor in here. He's won the race 4 times, and he will come in from Belmont with Salamis, Salamis for Juddmonte. But I think this is Tescore's race to lose. She's the only Grade 1 winner in the field, and they put the blinkers on her. Grand Motion did last time out, and she got a win in the Twilight Derby at Santa Anita. She's just, even though this is a Grade 1 horse, she is the only Grade 1 winner in the field. And also, from a buyer standpoint, she ran before the Twilight Derby. She ran 3 straight races in the 90s, and there's nobody else in here that can match up to her when it comes to that. So it's a fairly confident pick for me. Zoe, what do you think of the Hollywood Derby?
Well, Tescore, he is the horse to beat for Trainer Grand Motion. Already had a nice win yesterday, Dave. Whenever it was, I'm losing track on days. He's won one of the stakes down there already. So Tescore, definitely, he's the horse to beat, the son of Looking at Lucky. Tom's Magic is in here. Now, he's done very well in those restricted races up there at Woodbine, but he's a pretty good horse. By Justify, they paid $200,000 for him. So I'm going to throw him in the mix. And then we just saw the work on Tempest Volat, another one coming out of a restricted race with Miko Demaro, who, 10 for 30 right now, batting 33% down there at Del Mar, having a terrific meet as well. So it's definitely a competitive race for sure.
Yeah, not only has Chad Brown won this race 4 times, and he targets it every year seemingly. Graham Motion likes to target this race as well, and he has won this race also. Graham, of course, the trainer of Test Score. So Hollywood Derby, it's a good race. Guess who won the Hollywood Derby as a 3-year-old? Last start of his 3-year-old year. I didn't realize this. A lot of people, I think, don't realize it. California Chrome.
Yes, California Chrome.
Kidding. Yeah, good rabbit hole factoid there, Randy.
California Chrome, past winner of the Hollywood Derby.
Yep.
All right.
It's now time for the First TV work of the week, which is brought to you, of course, by First TV. Tempest Volat was a winner of the Let It Ride Stakes at Del Mar in his very last start. That was on October the 30th. He's been working steadily for his return, as we see with a half-mile work at Santa Anita on Friday in 50-1 for trainer Leo Palmer. He's by the hottest sire on the planet, not this time, and he will head next to the Hollywood Derby at Del Mar. We'll be talking about that in just a moment. We'll be right back after this message from First TV.
Be a smarter better with First TV, the best horses, with thousands of exclusive morning workouts, all at your fingertips and delivered right into your inbox. Everything you need to be informed. Be smart, bet smart with First TV. All the thrills. Fraction of the bills. Experience the power of the partnership. Change your life, make new friends, and compete at the highest level of thoroughbred racing. West Point Thoroughbreds, the gold standard in racing partnerships. Visit westpointtb.com.
I do want to remind you that the TDN Writers Room is also brought to you by West Point Thoroughbreds. Now, West Point reached a meaningful milestone this month when Sorcerer's Silver was moved to Mareworth Farm in Lexington for his retirement. Now, let's get you up to speed on the story. Sorcerer's Silver severely injured his right front ankle during the running of the Grade 2 Pat Day Mile Stakes on Kentucky Derby Day. In a different era, there would have been no choice but to euthanize him. But thanks to the innovation and expertise of Dr. Larry Bramlage, who else, he performed a successful surgery, and over the past 6 months, Sorcerer's Silver steadily hit every recovery benchmark. He is now able to enjoy full-time turnout in a paddock, which is absolutely marvelous. West Point extends its deep appreciation to Dr. Bramlage and the team at Rood and Riddle, to Mark McEntee and his staff at Mere Comet Farm, and to Mareworth Farm for welcoming him so warmly as part of its admirable mission to provide lifelong refuge for horses who cannot persevere a second career. Big round of applause for them. For more information on becoming a partner, check out www.westpointtb.com.
Well, that looks like it's a wrap on this week's show. I want to thank my partners, Zoe Cadman and Randy Moss, our Gainesway guest of the week, Trevor McCarthy, and special thanks to our producers, directors, and all the people that work behind the scenes to make the show what it is. And that team is Sue Finley, Katie Petruniak, Anthony LaRocca, and Aaliyah LaRocca. Once again, have a happy Thanksgiving, everybody, and we'll see you next week.